Our man is back. Simon Hill. A very good morning, sir.
Morning, guys. How are you?
Going beautifully, thanks, Simon. Really nice to be catching up with you again. It's been a busy period for your good self, of course, across covering the Asian Cup action. And overnight, the Matildas were in action again up against Uzbekistan. They waited until late to get active, but gee, when they came with a flurry. 3 late goals for Heyman, Fowler and Ford. And in the end, on paper, it looks like a pretty comfortable 3-0 win, but they had to work pretty hard to get this victory overnight.
Yeah, look, it's the first leg of two. The second leg to come in Melbourne during the week. The winners to take their place at the Paris Olympics in the northern summer. So they've got one foot in the games. As you say, they had to earn the right to win that match overnight in Tashkent. Great to see Michelle Heyman get back on the score sheet. It's her first goal since the Rio Olympics in 2016. She's been out of the national team for a long time. So justifying her recall, and Mary Fowler again, who is, for me, the player of the next generation that's come through, and a late goal for Caitlin Ford as well. So pretty comfortable in the end, even though they had to work hard for it, and they should be good enough to finish off the job in Melbourne in the second leg during the week.
Okay, let's go to EPL and some big upsets overnight. Let's start off with a huge one. Man U 1, Fulham 2. What happened there?
Well, United aren't as good as everybody seems to think they are. That's the problem. There's been a lot of talk emanating out of Old Trafford this week, particularly with, Sir Jim Ratcliffe having taken over a 25% stake in the club. And there was all this grandiose talk during the week of, we need a new stadium and we're going to be challenging up at the top along with the likes of Man City and Liverpool and Arsenal. But, this is a bit of a reality check for United. This is unfortunately where they're at. On their day, they're good enough to compete with the best teams, but consistency has been a real problem this season. That's their 10th defeat in the Premier League. And it looked as though they got out of jail a bit. They fell behind to Calvin Bassey's goal, but Harry Maguire got them all square with only a minute or two to go. And then they go and concede to Alex Iwobi in the 96th minute. Only Fulham's second win at Old Trafford since 1963. So there's still a lot of problems for Erik ten Hag. His depth isn't the best. They're going to be missing Rasmus Højlund as well, their main striker for the Manchester Derby next week. And just to put this into context, that result overnight, before yesterday's game at Old Trafford, only Sheffield United had a worse away record than Fulham. So that's not only a big surprise, but a big wake-up call, I think, for Manchester United.
Indeed, there would have been some unhappy Red Devil fans leaving there yesterday. Aston Villa were big winners over Notts Forest, 4-2. This is a high-scoring encounter, and the Villains walking away with the 3 points.
Yeah, and look, Aston Villa are one of the teams that Manchester United need to be looking at and saying, we need to get over the top of them first. Villa had their little wobble of late, but they bounced back in style. They're scoring goals for fun. Douglas Lewis got a couple yesterday. Ollie Watkins with his 14th of the season after only 4 minutes to get them on their way. Leon Bailey with one as well. And Villa looking good for fourth spot as a bare minimum. They've got a 5-point break on Spurs now, an 8-point gap to Manchester United, who are in sixth. And Unai Emery has done a terrific job. He's built a very good team ethic. He's got some quality players, particularly Watkins and Douglas Lewis, who I've mentioned already. I think they're terrific Premier League players. So Villa looking good for that fourth spot, and that would be terrific for the Premier League, I think, to see a team break into that upper echelon and get Champions League qualification. They have got European distractions as well. They're in the Conference League. I think they've drawn Ajax in the next phase of the knockout stage of that competition. So their squad depth will be tested towards the end of the season. But they're going well at the moment, Villa.
Okay, Brighton 1-1 Everton. They were behind and got away with a draw, but that's a disappointing result, just where they are on the ladder. And Crystal Palace 3 gave it to Burnley 0.
Yeah, Brighton needed a 95th minute equaliser from Lewis Dunk, who was celebrating his 400th game for his hometown club after Jared Branthwaite had given Everton the lead. stoppage time goal for the 10 men of Brighton after Billy Gilmore had been sent off for a rather crude tackle on Amadou Onana. It's a disappointing goal to concede that for Everton, and now winless in 9 matches, only 1 point ahead of Luton, having played a game more in the battle to avoid the drop. And of course, they've had that 10-point deduction, and there is a possibility they might have another problem because they've been cited and sanctioned or called to order for another financial breach. I mean, if they lose another 5 points or 10, then, it's going to be a real struggle for Everton. But they could have done with those 3 points. But Brighton doing what they do, they've had a tough season because, again, their squad depth has been tested by playing in Europe, but they managed to grind out a point. Crystal Palace on the new leadership. Of course, they sacked Roy Hodgson last week and brought in Oliver Gazner, very tough-talking Austrian, and they blew Burnley away. Chris Richards, Jordan Ayew and John-Paul Mateta with a penalty. Josh Brownhill sent off after 35 minutes for Burnley, who've conceded 58 goals this season, and I think they are doomed for the drop along with Sheffield United.
Indeed, the Clarets have really found it very difficult up there in the top flight, Simon.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you concede that many goals, then, obviously that it's always going to be a struggle, and unfortunately they've not been able to score enough at the other end. It sounds pretty basic, but it's a big step up, and you look at the bottom 3 at the moment, it's Luton, Burnley, Sheffield United. Those are the 3 teams that came up last season. That's how hard that leap to the top flight is. You've got to invest, and to be fair, Burnley have done a little bit, but it looks as though it's a bridge too far. And I'm sorry, obviously, for Vincent Kompany as a Man City fan. He's a big favourite of mine, but they just don't look to be good enough to stay up, unfortunately.
You'd have been happy with this result. Man City 1-0 winners over the Cherries. Foden with a 24th minute goal, and then City were able to keep Bournemouth at arm's length from that point on.
Yeah, it wasn't the most comfortable of afternoons for Manchester City, but of course Liverpool keep winning. They're not in action in the league this weekend. They've got the Carabao Cup final later today against Chelsea at Wembley, but City had to keep winning, ditto Arsenal, and both did. It was a bit of a grind for City. Phil Foden with his 16th of the season, he's becoming a real key player for them. Erling Haaland might have scored a second, but again, late on, they had a bit of a wobble. Unai, I've just forgot the name of the striker, but the Bournemouth striker, Unas Enal, had a big chance late on, but put his header just wide of the post. And it could so easily have been a draw. And that has been City's Achilles heel this season, conceding some of those late goals. So they'll be pleased to keep a clean sheet. And it gets the gap down again to Liverpool to just 1 point. And it's all sort of pointing towards that March the 10th meeting at Anfield between the top 2.
Oh, Arsenal have given it to your boys, Newcastle, 4-1. What's happened there, David?
Nothing too good, unfortunately. It was an absolute avalanche. They had all guns firing, and unfortunately for the Toon, they had to wait until the 84th minute until they could hit the back of the onion bag. This was one-way traffic, Simon. Yeah,
it was, I'm afraid. An own goal. Kai Havertz, the much maligned Kai Havertz with a goal and an assist. Bukayo Saka inevitably, and Jakub Kiwior as well for Arsenal. Again, a goal from a set piece. That's 19 for the season. Newcastle are in all sorts at the moment. Joe Willock against his old club with the only response. And I guess the big question now for Newcastle is the pressure building on Eddie Howe, because a lot more was expected of the Toon this season. Arsenal, great for them. Of course, they remain in the title race. They're very much in it. But with Jose Mourinho available now after leaving Roma, there's a bit of talk in the northeast, but they might be tempted to make a change. So interested to hear your views on that.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how things do pan out over the next little bit. Mourinho, oh goodness. Simon, you're probably better advised than me, but he's had more clubs than Jack Nicklaus as things turn out on the way through. But he adds a different layer to every football club that he goes to. I'm not 100% sure how he would go up there with the black and white fans if things weren't going all that well.
Well, he's a short-term project, isn't he, Mourinho? And he brings controversy, brings charisma, as you rightly say. Whether he is yesterday's man, I'm not quite sure. His trophy-laden seasons are long gone, although he did win the Conference League with, or was it the Europa League? It was one of the two with Roma. But there comes a time in every manager's career when the game seems to pass you by, and I do wonder whether that's the case with Mourinho. But given where Newcastle are and given the investments that they put into the club, they surely can't be happy with where they're sitting at the moment. And I wouldn't be surprised if they get the itchy trigger finger.
Well, it wouldn't be the first or last Premier League club to do that. That is for sure and certain. Let's have a look at the two remaining games for the round. Wolves are hot faves for their clash with Sheffield United, $1.40, the draw $4.80, Sheffield United $8. And then it's West Ham, Brentford, the Hammers $2.48, the draw $3.45, and Brentford $2.75. Is the market right in the first game? Should Wolves just be winning?
Yeah, they should. Sheffield United are down amongst the dead men, only 13 points. They gave themselves a little bit of a glimmer last time out with a win over Luton. And they did actually beat Wolves at Bramall Lane back in November, so they're looking to complete a league double. But again, similar story to Burnley. They concede way too many goals, 65 in total. I think Wolves would be too strong. Having said that, they have lost back-to-back games at Molineux, Wolves, after winning 8 straight before that at their home venue. So it's an interesting one, but I think the likes of Neto and Hwang Hee-chan will probably be too hot to handle for Sheffield United. And by the way, it'll be a bit of a sombre occasion at Wolves today. Goalkeeper Paul Bradshaw, for older listeners, he was part of the Wolves team when they last won a trophy, 1980 League Cup final against Nottingham Forest. He passed away at the age of 67 this week, so I'm sure there'll be some sort of commemoration for him.
And the Tuesday game, Brentford, any hope against West Ham? This would be a West London derby, wouldn't it?
Yeah, look, neither team is in the best of nick at the moment, to be honest. West Ham and Brentford are both safe. I don't think they're going to go down, but, you'd slightly favour West Ham given that they're at home. But if they don't win again, the guns are going to be out for David Moyes. A very interesting comments from Moyes this week when he spoke about, I don't really know what the fans think we should be doing. We won a trophy last season. We're finishing top 10 regularly. We challenged for the European spots only a year or two back. We're in no danger of getting relegated this season. And I think, to all intents and purposes, he's right to a large degree. The problem is the expectations for so many clubs these days are really beyond the realms of reality. So it's a bigger game probably for West Ham than it is for Brentford, who were maybe a touch unlucky not to get something from their midweek game at Manchester City. But, yeah, I think West Ham should be favourites in that one, but not by much.
See, Matthew Benham has got Brentford up for sale, 400 million sterling, and he bought the club with a loan of 700,000 sterling, and he's now got it up for 400 million.
Wow, that's
he's
some good shopping.
He's a very acute businessman, this man.
He's done a great job. And, I'm old enough to remember the days when Brentford were regularly in the 4th division at the old dilapidated Griffin Park. Well, did have a pub on every corner, which was terrific. So he's done an amazing job to get them where they are. A-League,
a lot of draws. What are we? Perth Glory, Wellington Phoenix 0-all. We had Brisbane Royal Western United 2-all. Sydney FC Melbourne City 1-all. And a result, Western Sydney away beat Adelaide United 2-1.
Yeah, well, let's start with your boys, Perth Glory. They're now 6 games unbeaten, which is a good little run of form. Obviously, they've got to keep that going because they're outside the top 6 at the moment. This is not a bad result, against Wellington Phoenix, even though Glory were at home. Wellington at top of the table by 6 points, even though they had 1 or 2 missing yesterday. They're the 3 foreigners, not the Barbarouses is a foreigner, but Zavada and Kryev certainly are. And none of them were in the starting lineup yesterday. So that's not a bad result for Glory. It keeps that little run going. Their next 2 games are against Western United and Newcastle. I think they can beat both of those teams. And if they do, then that will give them a real good shot at getting in the top 6. Sydney, Melbourne City, all square. Jordan Courtney Perkins for Sydney. Marco Tilio with an absolutely screaming goal to equalise for City, his first since returning on loan from Celtic. So City are kept at arm's length by Sydney. There's a very tight race developing at the bottom of the top 6. But Western Sydney Wanderers, who play Sydney in the derby next week with the big winners yesterday, 2-1 over Adelaide United, who are in all sorts at the moment, particularly at home. Nicholas Milanovic, who was excellent yesterday with both goals, both headers, and they held out Adelaide pretty comfortably in the second half, just a stoppage time consolation from Luka Jovanovic. So it's all getting very tight in the race for the top 6, but Wellington are still the team to catch at the top. They're the only team left that has never won a trophy. So maybe this is their year.
Thank you so much, as always, for your time, Simon. Great to have you back on the Aftermath on this Sunday morning. Enjoy the remainder of your weekend and look forward to our chat next week.
You too, guys. All the best.
There is Simon Hill. Always good to have him back on this program. We're racing today at Pinjarra, big event, big 10 event card down there. Race number 9 is the Pinjarra Classic on the Scarp side over the 1,300 metres. Titan Blinders has been scratched. Aztec Ruler is our favourite on Tab Touch there at $4. First event gets underway at Pinjarra today at 12.56. We're pacing at Williams. Yes, down there at Williams today, meeting 117 the first of 7, the last 4.43. And chasing at Mandurah, Tab Touch Park, 12 there. And race 1 goes at 4.16. Kody Charles is our next guest, joining us on the Aftermath. A very good morning, Kody.
Good morning, Marty. Shorty, how are you today?
Yeah, really well. Thanks, Kody. Great to have your company here on the Aftermath on this Sunday morning. You've been a busy boy. Lots going on with the sales just around the corner. You've got your standard runners that you've been working with from a greyhound perspective as well. Lots happening at your house.
Yeah, mate. Sure is never ending. It's a big day here today, actually. We've got the annual Yilling Parade that kicks off at 4 o'clock out here at Mum and Dad's farm. So anyone listening that thought about coming, make sure you find your way out here at 324 River Road, Hopeland at 4 o'clock start, and the great man Tim Gossage will be hosting the event and we'll be pulling out the 24 yearlings, and hopefully people can find their next stars here.
I hope he's not pulling them out. I hope he's just talking about them.
He will be talking about it, but Tim actually got in one last year called, I think it's called Better Get On Pip, and it's actually had 2 starts. It was placed first up in it. Won the other day at Gloucester Park. I won a heat of the Sales Classic. So Tim actually finds himself with a runner in next week's $125,000 final.
Good on the big fella. It's always good when anyone gets involved in the racing, pacing or chasing industries. Well, let's go back to Friday night. Here's a replay of our Benson's
racing.
Win.
Hopping out quickly, Fearless won, joined by our Benson, Little Bit Sour, Stanger Fire pushing through in the middle, and there's Sunset Callisto with a turn of speed. Last all over Keisha. The favourite, our Benson, ran to the front, 4 clear of Sunset Callisto. Little Bit Sour, then Stanger Fire, but our Benson, he's out on his lonesome, our Benson. He's going to win easily by 6 lengths over Sunset Callisto, Stanger Fire, Little Bit Sour.
Big win from our Benson there on Friday night, Kody, in a heat of the Great Western. This dog's putting together an excellent strike rate now, and one of your homebreds as well by Tommy Shelby out of your bitch Mary Doll.
Yeah, no, he's going super, definitely. He's really building a nice record. He's always shown us right from day one that he can really run, and he's been able to take it to the track, so it's been really pleasing. We actually sold a little share in the dog to an old fella. He wanted to get him one of the Mary Doll pups, and we'd already sold pretty much all the ones we wanted to sell, and he come out, and as I say, as an old fella, we felt a bit sorry for him, so we said he could go in the black dog there if he wants, and we let him name him and all the rest of it, and he hasn't been the best of health of late, so he's tickled pig to see the way the dog's going, and hopefully he can get down there, old Rolly, on Friday night and watch the dog go around. But no, he's really starting to put it together. He's a good beginner, but he probably just lacks that real burst early, if you know what I mean. He sort of works his way forward, so that could be a little bit touching when he sort of steps up in grade, which is pretty much at that point now that he won that grade 4 the other night. He's pretty much free for all dog now. So, but yeah, he's come out with the red box on Friday night. So if I could choose any box, that's what I'd be choosing. So there's absolutely no excuses for Friday night. He's fit, he's called up well, and he's going to give that a massive show, I say. All
right, so being with big claims next Friday night, they're off the inside draw in that Great Western final, our Benson. You also had the national sprint winner Sage Tennille go around there on Friday night in a free-for-all over the 488 metres. She ran third behind My Anarchy Boy. Where's she at the moment?
We're a bit lost of her at the moment. Unfortunately, before we headed to Queensland, she was in a nasty fall at Cannington. Have I lost you there?
No, we still got you. Yep.
So, okay, sorry, I had earphones in and I went very quiet. Yeah, so before I went to Queensland, she suffered a nasty fall at Cannington. And then I decided that sort of was the testing material to actually send to go to Queensland, we were to get away from Cannington. So before we went away, we trialled her after the fall to make sure she was on song. I think she trialled 21.93 over 400 metres. That told me that she was, she was good to go. So we went over there, and she probably didn't perform to the best of her ability. She did perform extremely well in the match race series, where it was just sort of one dog out. And then in the full fields, didn't show her best. We've come home, we gave her a little freshen up. Trialled over 400. She trialled 22.01. We've been to the races twice. She's drawn awkwardly for her, but the small field the other day should have definitely helped. But she's physically there. She's flying. She's doing as best she can do. But mentally, I think she's definitely been scarred from the fall, unfortunately, and I'm unsure in the direction that we're really heading. So we'll probably... she's actually going to come out of Wednesday from Cannington, so she may just have to have a trial in between that and the Perth Cup, and if she doesn't perform well back at Cannington, then it's either give her a good spell to help, mentally try and get over the fall, or I am possibly thinking about stepping her up to 600 and going down that path, which has been on the radar for a long time, but these big races seem to just keep popping up, and it just seems to hold you back a little bit. But the way she's performed the last probably 6 starts, it's probably time to make that call.
Kody, you mentioned yearling parade today before next Sunday's AP Gold Standardbred yearling sale here in Perth. How many did you say you're parading?
24. We've got 12 colts and 12 fillies. That's
a big operation.
Yeah, it certainly is. Got to wonder, we're a tight-knit family, and we all get into it. But today is a big effort for us we'll probably have anywhere from 80 to 100 people come out today and view these yearlings. But we put on a great show. We produced our annual catalogue. That'll be there today for people to get their hands on, hot off the press. And, there's drinks and a feed and all that. So we certainly look after our clients that come out and look after us. And, we get the right buyers here. And it's been a pretty successful event that we've held probably for the last 8 or 9 years.
And most of the people that have come along on that journey with you have had some excellent success. There's been a stack of top liners come out of this particular event each and every year. Kody, are there one or two that stand out of the 24? Are there a couple there that you think will be towards the top of the sales when it comes to the sales coming around? A couple that maybe you'd expect to be towards that very top bracket?
Yeah, we've got. I really like the fillies probably this year. We've got 3 really, really nice fillies. So we've got a Sweet Lou filly out of Here for the Money, and Here for the Money's been a wonderful producer. She's the mother of Shockwave and the mother of a horse called Double Espresso. That's a Group 1 winner as well. So it's left 2 Group 1 winners, and that's a full sister to Double Espresso. And then we've got a new mare that we purchased from the East Coast, a mare called Mint Julep. It's a cracking filly. And she's a damn at 2 Group 1 winners as well, and that's the first time any of her progeny's been offered in WA. So I think she'll be right up there at the top. And an old mare that people would be familiar with, that she was probably the queen of WA racing, we've managed to purchase her back, and this is the first foal that'll be offered here, is out of Liberty Bell Midfree. She was a winner of about 630,000, dual Group 1 winner, into Dominion Heat winner here in Perth. So she's had 3 foals sell on the East Coast for 150,000, I think. So her foal's outstanding type. It'd be good to offer her foal to the WA, where she was trained here by Mike Reid, known by Albert Walmsley. So I'm sure she'll spark some interest as well.
Okay, Kody, give the parade another push. Where do we go if we want to get involved today?
Yeah, so the KTC Bloodstock Yearling Parade is today at 4 p.m. at Mum and Dad's place at 324 River Road, Hopeland.
All the best, Kody. Hope it's a successful day and a successful sale next week.
Thanks very much for your time, boys. Have a great day.
Blah, blah, blah. Let Marty Young and David Shortte do all the talking on the Aftermath. Sunday morning at its best on Tab Radio Racing and Sports.
Shorty, the Retrovision text line has blown up. 0427 789 571. Get your texts in. We'll get to them as soon as we can. A lot of people want to talk about the Fremantle Dockers, West Coast Eagles match sim yesterday, so keep them coming in. We'll attend to them soon. But first, Chris Nelson joins us to talk Sydney racing. A very good morning to you, Chris.
Good morning, Marty. Good morning, Shorty.
Tell us about the Silver Slipper, Straight Charge and Espionage.
Yeah, they go all right, these 2 colts, don't they? Look, there was probably little between them leading up to the post-race, and we didn't know which way to go. The market sort of had Straight Charge a little bit in front, and it stayed that way. And I think probably he's a bit more wound up than Espionage, but I think Espionage was taking a little bit of ground off him late. They did dash home, something like 33.99 home. 11.22 the last 200 for Straight Charge, 11.12 for Espionage. So he was making up a little bit of ground there, but gee, they're good. These Waterhouse 2-year-olds, I just absolutely love them. But the hardest part is to work out which one's better than the other each week.
Spot on. And it was just a really positive ride from Tim Clark. Early doors, Espionage was right up there, and Tim Clark just took charge with Straight Charge, rolled across, went to the top, and while Espionage took a little bit of ground off late, it never really looked like running down Straight Charge. So he just had pinched that march mid-race and was comfortable, just got into that groove. And that's what we've seen from so many of these Waterhouse bot horses. It seems logical, but when you've got young horses that have got good manners, roll to the top, can dictate terms, generally when the fence is okay, use the rail as a guide, you just give yourself so many advantages over your opposition.
Oh, you do, and that's the way they train their horses. They all go forward. We know that's going to happen with their horses, and we get to see Storm Boy next week in the Skyline. I believe he'll make his return, and look, we know he's supposed to be better than a lot of them, and there's others there. I mean, how good was Lady of Camelot yesterday at Caulfield?
She was terrific.
She was sensational. Yeah, on speed too. So, yeah, I don't know. They'll probably have half the field in the slipper by the time it comes around in 4 weeks.
All right, let's talk about the Hobartville Stakes. Celestial Legend. Has Les Bridge got another one here? Another great legend horse, Bon Ho, who happened to be on course there yesterday. It's 40 years since Les Bridge first won the Hobartville Stakes with the great Sir Dapper.
Yeah, it is. And who would have thought 40 years between drinks? And Les did say time flies, and he's not wrong. But I do think he has, Marty. I think he has got another good one here in Celestial Legend. Jumped well, settled probably 3 or 4 lengths behind the leaders. First try at 1,400 metres, bang, love the way that he finished off. He just put them away late. And Les did say post-race, and you would have picked this up as well, that he thinks he's nearly as good as Classique Legend. And the tempo here wasn't open. All these races at Rosehill yesterday run at very soft tempos, and here was another one, and he was roaring away from them late. The Randwick Guineas beckons in a couple of weeks, doesn't it?
Certainly does. He's by done deal out of a Schnitzel mare, so he's obviously going to get a bit more ground yet, you would think, and the miles should just be right up his alley.
Yeah, definitely the case. NCAP was pretty good, sat 3 wide, no cover. Old Tommy Kitten, I don't know, he's very one-paced this preparation. He's obviously looking for further than 1,400. He might even be looking for further than 1,600 metres. I couldn't see him turning the tables on Celestial Legend.
Not off that run. There was just no click-up, was there, yesterday?
No.
I sort of see Nash was in an awkward spot. I was watching the race with Marty in here yesterday, and I must admit, off that first-up performance where Tom finished the race off pretty well, I thought, he'll get mobile sort of here turning for home and make a run, but never really eventuated.
No, never at all, and that's why I sort of said there that he's a little bit one-paced and maybe he's a bit more dour this time in, and he's looking for something a lot further. So we will see what happens with Tom Kitten, but tell you what, guys, I'll be sticking solid with Celestial Legend going forward, that's for sure.
Group 2, Millie Fox, Zugotcha and Lady Laguna came away for a 2-horse war, but it was Zugotcha back in winning form, beating Lady Laguna.
Yeah, Zugotcha, who didn't come up last preparation, but she got a beautiful run here behind those 2 leaders. Lady Laguna led How Good Are You, got rid of How Good Are You on the home turn, who hasn't come up this prep, and then Zugotcha straight off Lady Laguna's back. Just too solid over that last 50 metres or so. It was a sprint home. It was very hard to make any ground from the back of the field. Vienna Princess was okay. Lechbart was okay late. But Zugotcha, had to win that race yesterday, guys, with the run that the horse had. So there you go, back in the winner's circle.
The Parramatta Cup at listed level there was an interesting race, and it was an interesting winner. More Felons getting the job done for Chris Waller. This horse, of course, second preparation, and we often see these European gallopers. They come across, and first time around takes them a while to adapt. Finished 5th in the Geelong Cup and then midfield in the Melbourne Cup, 12th. Had the break, returned there yesterday, a different horse, and got the job done as a $23 chance in pretty impressive fashion.
Yeah, rough result here, Shorty. $23, $17 the second horse, $21 the third, $14 the fourth. And I went back and had a look at More Felons' form this morning and thought, this was gettable. Mm-hmm. As you mentioned there, 5th in a Geelong Cup, less than a length from the winner. And then the Melbourne Cup drew 23 of 23. So really had no chance the way the barriers fell and was beaten 9 lengths behind without a fight. And you go back and look at some of that form overseas. 8th in an Ebor, beaten 3.3 lengths. So this gelding might be pretty good. I'm keen to follow him. I think he's only going to improve with that run yesterday. he might be one that can really jump up this particular autumn.
The old Melbourne Cup form was good yesterday, provided Gold Trip and Vow and Declare. I know Vow and Declare had started since the Melbourne Cup, but Gold Trip hadn't, and they all ran well.
Yeah, well, there you go. Without a fight, he was a very dominant Melbourne Cup winner, and that form definitely stacks up. We're going to see him back in the spring, I believe, which is great news.
Excellent. There were a couple of very disappointing performances in that Parramatta Cup, Chris. By the same token, there was very good support for Zenzella. It didn't figure, and also Diamel was very well backed, and it failed to flutter as well.
Diamel just did nothing in the straight whatsoever. Just reading the steward's report, J-Mac said Diamel was a bit one-paced and might be better ridden more conservatively, so further back in the field. So that'll be the case, I think, next time. And Zenzella, well, they rode her forward this time. She was only beaten 0.65 of a length. She was there to win, but she couldn't. So every possible chance for her. But, a couple of abject failures in that race.
Any other races you want to look at Rose Hill or up at Doomben?
We've covered most of those ones. So the red card was impressive, winning race number 9, had the gun run. The two in front, Frilled and Renosu, just went way too hard in front. They overcooked it there. I think we've covered most of the others. Doomben, we had some... It was a tough day at Doomben, guys, I'll tell you, speaking straight from the pocket. It was an absolute shocker. But there was some good 2-year-old prelude races. We've got these dual races coming up in 2 weeks' time. All-inclusive won the Colts and Geldings. Race 4, first starter, David Van Dyke and Ryan Maloney. He was saying on Friday this horse is not too far behind Alligator Blood. He started $6. So there you go. Follow it.
He looked particularly good, didn't he? He finished the race off with a lot of dash. He's by all too hard out of a Lonhro mare, so you'd imagine it's 1,400 and beyond will suit him as well.
Yeah, definitely the case. He gets to 1,200 in that final race in a couple of weeks' time. Defiant Spirit won the 3-year-old dual prelude. Very impressive. That was that Gold Coast Magic Millions form and was way too good. Similar type win. And our old mate Golden Boom got beaten as an odds-on favourite in race number 8. I don't know what Tony Gollan's going to do with him now. I really don't.
Just quickly on Defiant Spirit, listening post-race, David Fowler was upbeat, very buoyant in regards to the future of Defiant Spirit. He said a fortnight from now, I think the duel's on, and he was suggesting that the opposition are going to have to find a bit to compete with Defiant Spirit, particularly if it can get a gate.
100%. I mean, High Bar probably had every possible chance. You couldn't see High Bar turning the tables on Defiant Spirit. He's always been promising, and I know Stuart Kendrick's always had a really good opinion of him. Didn't quite win his first 2 races this prep, but then he hit his straps at the Gold Coast, and he's really kicked on from there. So, yeah, I'd say he's the one to beat.
Got a winner at Sunshine Coast?
60 scratchings, Marty, on a heavy 8, and it's still raining.
Let's give it a miss.
I think I'll give it a miss today, definitely.
All right, we'll tune in on Wednesday and then again catch you next Saturday morning for the Queensland preview.
Look forward to it. Thanks, guys. Have a great Sunday afternoon.
Chris Nelson, as he does every Sunday morning on The Aftermath, coming up is Racetrack Ralphy.
Sunday morning, we will do the talking on The Aftermath with Marty Young and David Shortte on Tab Radio Racing and Sports.
Wanted to be in, and was that achieved?
Yeah, I was happy enough. I wanted to follow Snowden's, and I was happy where we were. We were 4 wide with cover, but I just wanted to keep her out of trouble. And on the turn, we'd lost a couple of lengths, but I was happy enough where we were. It wasn't going to be a pretty race, and it wasn't. But just can't believe she's done that.
There's
Jamie, congrats. February's been a good month for new jewellery.
Sugi yesterday in the Blue Diamond Stakes. Racetrack Ralphy joins us to tell us all about it. Hi, Ralphy.
Morning, boys. Head wobble free crossed this morning. It was a character building day.
Character building, but this horse has got plenty of character, Hayasugi. She may not blow the clocks up, but I tell you one thing she does. She's tough and she loves to run down a horse in front of her.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's, let's pull this apart, the Blue Diamond. So, explosive early speed here. Don't know why John Allen wasn't questioned by the Stewart Frank on Sky Wire. So,
yep.
Because there's 2 aspects to questioning riders. One is, what are you doing for your horse? And the other one's, what are you doing for other horses? So the best way to get Lady of Camelot beaten was to ride that horse that way. Now, I'm absolutely undelighted. I'm not saying there's anything nefarious happening, but I'm saying that Stewart should be questioning under that circumstance. And I've got Vince Accardi's data through. this might have been the fastest ever Blue Diamond as far as the first section. So they were legless late, and as you said, Hayasugi's a chaser, really tough, and Lady of Camelot fell off the cliff, rightly so, because they were just going so fast. So all honours the winner because she's a beauty, but also all honours with that. You know, there's a reason that the preview and the preludes stand the test of time as the lead-in, and that 1,000-metre race that Coleman came through. I know there's talk, including my man Vince, but also saw Daniel O'Sullivan about the number of races for a proper sample size. I'd just rather go with, what I'm seeing and logic that a 1,000-metre race in a small field does not equate to the right amount of toughness required 3 weeks later into a Blue Diamond. So I'm always a bit sceptical now on that race, and probably was yesterday as well.
Fair enough. But interesting listening to the comments of Clint McDonald post-race there yesterday, heading towards the Golden Slipper and going in with a bit of quiet confidence as well. He said the one thing that you've got to say about this galloper, it just loves turning up and competing.
No, 100%. And look, I probably would have said the same thing he would have said before yesterday's race too. So they've got the prize and all honours a winner. Certainly, I think that the Colts, mainly the Colts in Sydney so far have got these covered. But don't knock winners. And I would say going forward, you got a really nice horse in Anisa for a size produce type runner, and Kayasagi that's clearly got upside, and Stay Focused is a really tough type of horse for the Stokesers. So it was a nice edition of Blue Diamond. I think it was a bit better than the past couple of years, but I think still well by what's required in the Golden Slipper. But if you won it yesterday, you don't care about that.
Yeah, 4 fillies, first 4 home, 2 in the race. Interesting. What about the Oakley Plate? This was a battle royal, wasn't it? 102.63, no place to hide. It was Q-Man betting, hypothetical, and a wonderful finish.
No, absolutely. So, again, so why did the market get it wrong, me included? Probably not a lot of people had Asphora and Scripper as last and second last after 100 metres on the speed map, but a regular reminder that once the barrier's open, anything can happen in horse racing. So perfectly ridden, these two. Magnificent ride, Michael D on hypothetical, and I'm looking at the figures here, and the best riders ride to the figures, and by that I mean just perfect efficiency of speed. And ditto Harry Coffey, who got his first Melbourne Group 1 winner of his career. I think his other one was it South Australian Derby, I think it might have been, but I know it was his second Group 1 win, and thoroughly deserved both of them. And then you add in the sort of rock hard fit toughness of Mornington Glory racing through the summer months. So there's your trifecta there. If you liked horses down the weights, you're probably rewarded, with the exception of King's Gambit, who was pretty plain and didn't really turn up, you're going to say, with King's Gambit. But yeah, as for her, very soft in the betting pre-race. So whether she was agitated and that was part of the reason she missed the start, who knows? And Scripper, like I said, he's ended up running the best last 800, 600, 400 and 200 of the day. So that probably tells you about how much money you can lose backing sectionals rather than backing horses that are right in the right spot.
I was on Vendetta each way. She was unlucky.
Yeah, she was. I would say she's going to improve in the new... I'll say this as a dual question. She's going to improve in the dual statement, rather. She's going to improve into the new market, but the new market's going to be a different level of standard to what was there yesterday. I'd be very careful of that form going forward.
Was there any news in relation to King's Gambit? It had a perfect run. I think Jamie Carr gave it every possible, and then just with 50 kilos... went for it, and there was just no fuel in the tank. There was no nitro button, and a horse that previously had performed well first up. Any news from the stewards in regards to that effort?
I didn't see from the stewards, but I did see a Peter Snowden interview on Channel 7, and that was really interesting. He wasn't overly worried. It must have been after Revolution he missed one. And he just said, he's a big bull, and he'll be better for that. We're going to the Galaxy. And if that's the case, and he wasn't, like, he got back during the week, but then wasn't smashed on race day, that sort of tells me that he did have a bit of softness. And Peter's reaction, and usually, I reckon he's one of those straight shooters. What you see is what you get. I'd be wary of riding this horse off in the Galaxy. Maybe that's his grand final.
What about Mr. Brightside's win in the Futurity?
He is a marvel, and the Hayes boys are just unbelievable what they're doing. And that's across the board, but with this horse specifically, I think this is his best ever second up run. And there was probably a little bit of flatness from the all first up. How are they going to beat it in the All-Star Mile? I mean, I'm a huge Pride of Jenny fan, but unless there's a real, mismanagement in the situation on the day, like as in Pride of Jenny ends up suddenly 10 lengths in front of Mr. Brightside, and that won't happen on Craig's watch as far as, intent. He's just going to win and win by panels. I mean, I saw about 250 now with Tab Touch. So I just don't know how they beat him. He's absolutely flying, this horse. I know the opposition wasn't strong. Celine Gaudry couldn't have ridden Buffalo River any better. Perfect front-running ride. Pericles improved like I thought he would, but, Mr. Brightside, what a star.
On to the Group 2 Peter Young Stakes. The New Zealander Campionessa getting the bob in on the line. Wow, Vow and Declare, excellent performance. And Gold Trip likewise, both excellent performers, Vow and Declare and Gold Trip over the longer journeys. But Campionessa across the ditch and a successful raid.
Yeah, I would comfortably say she can't go better than she did yesterday, and Gold Trip's going to launch through the roof in the Australian Cup. And I just spoke about Mr. Brightside, but at the moment I just looked on Tab Touch. Gold Trip is $8 each way in the Australian Cup. I believe he's going there. Wow, I mean, I wouldn't say he couldn't beat Mr. Brightside, and we do know Mr. Brightside's aimed at the All-Star Mile, so I think that's just an enormous each-way bet. He is flying. He couldn't have gone any better. They walked up front, and as you said, Mr. Vow and Declare ran well. It's always hard to find the right race for Vow and Declare because he's always in the top level, but Gold Trip, the Turnbull winner, if he brings his Turnbull form to the Australian Cup, there's only one horse who can beat him, Mr. Brightside, and I'm not even sure he definitely can. So, yeah, I think Gold Trip, from a futures perspective, is an enormous odds each way from that perspective.
Gee, there's a nice win in that Autumn Classic by immediacy.
I think so. The race shape's interesting. Now, I've seen the figures. They flew. A lot of races they walked. They flew, and then they put the brakes on. So under that circumstance, you want to be that blending runner, which immediacy was. So it was very good. I don't want to put a ceiling on him, but he'll have to keep improving to beat a horse like Tom Kitten. But I know that they'd have to leave the course wrapped with his run. He was fantastic.
Ralphy, you got 30 seconds to the news. Who do we throw into the black book?
Yeah, well, obviously, big stamp on Gold Trip, and the one from early in the day, I think, is a hidden run, is Ash Run, go to the Sydney Cup, I'd assume, and I think that was an absolute perfect return for that horse.
Ash Run, and fourth in the Melbourne Cup, wasn't he? And he was fourth to Dunkeld in the first race of the day. Racetrack Ralphy at racetrackralphy.com. You're our man. Looking forward to doing it again next week,
boys.
All the best.
Yep, Australian Guineas. See you, boys.
After a huge weekend of racing and sport, we can all do with a Sunday saviour to round out the punting weekend in winning style. The Tab Touch Sunday Saviour is here to sweeten your Sunday on the punt. It's over to the boys to provide this week's edition of Tab Touch Sunday Saviour.
Get involved, punters. Send through your Sunday saviours to the Retrovision text line 0427 789 571. It needs to be a multi somewhere between 2 and 4 legs. Keep it simple, and it has to be in before 9 o'clock, or Soph will just put a line straight through you. It's not in pencil either. It's the black art line. She'll just put it straight through you. So get it in before 9 o'clock this morning, and a multi between 2 and 4 legs. Keep it simple. You need the race name, the race number, and, of course, the animal that you're getting involved with, or indeed the sport, Marty. 2 to 4 legs, the most valuable $100 voucher, thanks to Tab Touch.
Okay, racing today. 10 events come in from Pinjarra. First to go, 12.56. Main event of the day is the Classic, sponsored by Tab Touch. It's over the 1,300 metres, and it's time to go at 5.35. Current favourite Aztec Ruler is at $4 for that race. We are pacing at Williams, halfway to Albany almost. 1.17 the first, 4.43 the last of 7. Tab Touch Park Mandurah. Race 1 goes at 4.16. The Dirty Dozen on the card, 7.58 is the final. The Tab Touch Rose of York will be run again this year on the Labor Day public holiday. That is next Monday, 4th of March, at that picturesque York racecourse. Besides exciting racing, there will be fashions on the field for both the ladies and gentlemen, plus live music, canteen and bar facilities. Gates open at 11:30. Marquee hires still available by emailing yorkracing@bigpond.com. That's yorkracing@bigpond.com. The Tab Touch Rose of York. Don't miss it, and stay tuned to Tab Radio Racing and Sport. So plenty to do off the Retrovision text line. We'll welcome along Brad Hardie in a minute, and then we can launch into them on 0427 789 571.
On the Aftermath, it's time to introduce the 1985 Brownlow medalist from the Footscray Football Club, Brad Hardie. Introducing the boy from Hilton, the AFL guru, Brad Hardie.
Yes, a very good morning, Bradley.
Morning, Marty. Good morning, Shorty. Good to be with you, boys. Apologies for being on the phone. Got a few NBN and internet problems at the moment moving house, so there you go.
That's okay, Brad. We can hear you loud and clear. That's the main thing. It's great to have footy back on the menu this week. There's been a few pre-season games, and I never get too carried away with the pre-season, but it's just good to have footy back on, Brad, and a few of these players blowing out the cobwebs.
Yeah, that's for sure, Shorty. At least you turned on a reasonable day over your way yesterday. I know you've been suffering from heatwave, Marty, and well, we had it here earlier the week. I couldn't believe it because, Geelong and Carlton played the other day, Shorty, and 36 degrees, and I don't know, if you're a Wolfie, you would have walked off after that, so I'm not sure. It was a little bit warm, but anyway, and there were some topsy-turvy results, Marty, so as we say, we'll just have to be a little bit careful about how we assess some of these teams because there was a lot of trials on board, young, old, different moves, different positioning, etc. So we'll get a better idea after the community series next week, I reckon, Shorty, where they're up against bona fide opposition in somewhat of a dress rehearsal for round O coming up.
That is for sure. Now let's start off that Vision text line with Snoz. And he says, hope you guys had a chance to watch Freo and West Coast. I believe the West Coast team played without any team plan or any plan B when falling further behind. I also found that Tim Kelly still only goes forward at the play without any defence. I know it was a scratch match, but an Eagle fan will be hoping for some change. Jamison and Gibney can be proud of their games.
Yeah, no, it's a fair observation. And look, I think that was the problem. I think we're all looking for... Yes, we're looking for effort, Shorty, aren't we? That's a given. That's an unwritten rule. So you just got to have that anyway. But I was looking for something a little bit more. I couldn't see the transference of Paul from back to forward had changed in any way. And this is what happens, Marty, when you get under a bit of pressure. And Fremantle were nice and clean and crisp a little bit last night, which was great. And they put enough pressure on West Coast to let them fall back into their old ways, Shorty. You know, the old chip sideways and backwards and not moving the ball at all. So that's a worry, a real worry for me, because I was hoping that, look, I wasn't going to see Collingwood or Richmond from a few years ago, but I wanted to see the ball going forward a bit more often. And, yeah, I just felt as though, from Snoz's point of view, he might have been right down the back half. It wasn't going to plan, I don't reckon, if there was one.
Jai Amos was good for Freo up front with 3. Jackson and Tracy a couple. Sonny Walters a couple there. So it's been an issue for Freo for many years since Matty Pavlich departed the Fremantle Football Club. But it looks like finally Fremantle are getting somewhere near this forward mix that they need to be able to score a competitive total most weeks. Amos is a young guy that obviously they'll build their forward line around for a period. It looks like Jackson's going to be the guy that spends more time forward than in the ruck on the way through. Tracy's going to be important. What did you make of the forward setup there from Freo last night, Brad, and how do you think it'll function through the season 2024?
Yeah, it's looking good on paper, and that's a couple of times now, and I think the week before all of those boys figured amongst the goals as well. But as I say, I think we'll get a better idea, Shorty, after next week when they play Port, and just see, because you'd suggest that Port will probably come a little bit better equipped than West Coast. They were too good for West Coast. We knew that was going to be the case, but I like it. What I do like is it's much about reliance on what's coming forward from the midfield, and Young, Sarong, Brayshaw. If they're able to use the ball better like they did in patches last night, that'll go a long way to helping that out, spotting blokes up. Amos is a boy of very good talent, and now he had a big year last year, topped the goal kicking, etc. And they're going to be onto him, but he's going to need Jackson and he's going to need Tracy as a couple of very capable sidekicks, because, there's going to be days when one is not going to be firing, 2 maybe, and they've got to find an alternative. So that was the good thing about it last night, Shorty, that those 3 boys got amongst the goals. And then what that does too, Marty, is when you're using that ball through the midfield better into the forward line, it brings the little guys in anyway, Shorty, you know what I mean? So if they don't mark it, at least they can bring it to ground and crumb and create goals out of nothing. So it was enterprising, but as I say, we'll just keep our powder dry it's on track at the moment. Let's see how they go after Port Adelaide next weekend.
I like the physical development of Amos. He looks to have put on a nice bit of muscle over that break, and can only do him good. He's still a couple of years away from being at his strongest, but he's heading in the right direction. Now, off the text line, Lisa of Allen Brooks, up and about. And she wishes us all a very good morning and says, guys, Eagles Dockers scratch match. I could have written a lot more. Firstly, if Gaff is in the best 22, we're in trouble. His days of playing on the wing have passed him. Thought Harley Reid showed some good signs. Like the way he was trying to take the game on. Shame a lot of his teammates weren't on the same page. Rawlinson impressed me with his pressure and tackling. Was in the right place at the right time. Hope he gets his chances. Tom Barras still seems to be struggling with his back issues. There are still some concerns with their two-way run and slow decision-making to hit up an open target. There's still a lot of work for Simo and the coaches. Looks like another long season. Have a great week. That is from Lisa. Well written, Lisa.
Yeah. Well, they ended up with 5-16. So if you looked at that on face value, you say, they had 21 shots, but a few of those were rushed, of course. But you're right, and Lisa's right on that. The two-way running has been an issue for them for quite some time because, you've got Yo, who we know can play, and we know that Tim Kelly can play, but you've got to have that two-way running, Shorty, don't you? Because you just can't keep running forward all of the time and running around looking after yourself and getting disposals. You've got to be able to help and put pressure on the team defence and all of that type of thing. So, it's a good observation from Lisa. And look, young Harley Reid, he got a little bit of cramp there, and understandably so. That can happen when you're a kid so early. You don't expect to because they're young and virile and whatever, but it can happen. A lot of nervous energy would have been there. His kryptonite is going to be his teammates.
Yep.
Simply as that. We know he can play, and we know he's a very outstanding. And as I said, and look, people again, just reassure him again. He's going to be a very good player, but he's not a 35 Dacos player. He's not that type of player. It's what he does with the ball, as Lisa said, taking the game on, and he's a disposal. That's going to be his currency, as opposed to having the ball 35 times.
Unfortunately for West Coast midfielder, the young fellow Ruben Jinby, he's copped a head clash with Luke Jackson, put into concussion protocols, so he was looking good before then.
Yeah. Look, he's built right up and he's looking good, and that was just an accident. I mean, and that's what can happen. And if you look at the West Coast players that weren't there with the injury last night, a lot of those are soft tissue injuries. But you can't control that sort of stuff, and we know how important that is. And he needs to get himself right over the next 12 days or so, because he's still got time for that round one game coming up. But there's no doubt he's developing nicely, and they've got a couple of decent footballers there, the West Coast Eagles, in their locker. They just got to grow a few more to go with them.
Brad, just looking at some of the other games, I've been impressed by some of these first-year players that have been relatively high picks, and the Bulldogs looks to have got their hands on a very, very promising young footballer in Riley Sanders. He looked very comfortable at the level, got a stack of the football. I'd expect him to have an excellent season. We've seen, of course, McKercher there at North Melbourne looks to be in for an excellent season. And the other one, particularly with the news earlier on in the week, and I just quickly wanted to pass on, obviously, our thoughts to the Brayshaw family and what a phenomenal player Angus Brayshaw was, and it's so sad to see him have to retire earlier on in the week. What it will do, though, is free up an opportunity for their top draft pick from last year in Caleb Windsor. I heard an interview with Lockie Hunter going back some 6 weeks ago, and he suggested that Windsor was good enough to push into the Demons side for round one. With Brayshaw now out, it looks like an opportunity for this young man to press straight in, and off what I saw there in that practice game as well, he looks to be capable of coming straight in and having an impact.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, look, I mean, let's deal the one at a time just quickly for you, Shorty. I mean, North Melbourne looked really good the other day. Collingwood had a lot sitting in the stands, Marty, as you'd understand, and, they know what they've got there. But what I did see in that particular game, Shorty, was the ball movement was a bit Hawthornish, from in their halcyon days, Marty. He's not going to kick it over there. Yes, he did. But they ran and share through the corridor and all of that, and everybody got rewarded because Clarko knows that you've got to keep those runners going. And if you don't reward the runner, Shorty, guess what? They stop. I'm doing it again. He didn't give it to me last time. What do you want me to do? Go it again? No way. But as I say, that was a little chippy around, and they just pulled Collingwood apart on that one, and you're right. They're going okay. They're sort of not going to be top 4, top 8 material just yet, but they look like they're building on something. So we've got a bit of an inkling there. Riley Sanders did a good job on Friday up there at the Dogs. You know, they had 2 games, Marty. It was sort of the possibles and the probables and all of that sort of stuff. But he's really fitted in well because no Bailey Smith. He's been able to slot straight in there. He's been mixing it with Tony Liberatore's boy. And he likes a contest, and he's strong and he's young, and as we know, which is obvious, but he really knows how to find the ball, and he likes physicality. So he can't ask much more than that. He can run, so he's doing really, really well. And there's a few boys there from Hawthorn who showed up all right, but might be able to get a game early. You're right, Shorty. It might be just a little bit of an era where a lot of those first rounders will actually play in round 1. We thought that normally you hope for them to get 7, 8, 10, 12 games, but there might be a few more this year because these boys look like they're pretty quality stock. Even though, and we were told, Marty, going into the draft, it was a bit shallow. Unbelievable.
Yeah, well, that happens every year. They seem to get everything wrong. Adelaide v Port. What about this game? The 2 teams had a decent crack.
Yeah, well, Carl Pepper was the story of that one, wasn't it? You know what I mean?
Was.
This is where you just got to have your awareness about it, your wherewithal. Like, you don't need to do that thing. No one's going to pull you up for pulling out or whatever. Just be smart, And look, he's going to be able to play next week in the community series because any suspension, and I assume that he probably will get one, Shorty. It's going to be in the real world. So rounds 0 and 1 and whatever. It's just. Yeah, that was the only problem for me. But that was the story out of that one, Marty. And again, we'll get a better idea when they play Fremantle on West Coast this week, those 2.
You've got to read the temperature in the room, don't you? You just had Angus Brayshaw retire with concussion, and he could be getting 3 to 5.
They were waiting for the first person to make this blue to make an example of them.
I agree.
And the unfortunate thing is, it's hard to say to a guy like Sam Powell-Pepper, particularly when you're playing your crosstown rivals, just steady she goes today, boys, sort of do what you have to. He's just such a competitive beast that I think he just, white line fever, got out there and unfortunately, that's spot on.
That's his instinct.
Yep.
He's not an instinct footballer as such. He's not. He's just a dead set goer. There's no doubt about that. He hasn't got the skill set of a lot of players, but he does do some polished things from time to time. But his instinct, as you say, should see ball, get ball.
Big time.
Whoever's in the way, bullock them out of the way, and that's a problem. You've got to go and you got to know when to hold them, when to fold them, and he just didn't quite get that right. So, yeah, and you're right, Shorty. They've been waiting for somebody to pick him off, and he might be just the one, unfortunately.
What I will say about these 2 sides, it doesn't matter when they play each other. They put on a contest. Of all the games that I've seen, this was the closest you'll get to round 1 action. It was elite, and they both don't like each other. It was a great contest, and I'd be staggered if these 2 sides aren't both pushing very, very hard top 8 and won't be easy to beat at Adelaide Oval this year, either of them.
Well, Port won 13 in a row last year, remember, when it was just about written off, and then, it sort of got a bit wobbly towards the end, and Adelaide should have played finals, let's face it. They got robbed. So you're right, Shorty. This is the exciting thing. We're only less than a couple of weeks away from probably one of the most even seasons that we're ever going to see. I mean, it's just going to be a lot of luck in running, and those sliding door moments that a lot of teams have had over the last 2 years. You don't want too many of those this year, I tell you, because if you come on the wrong side of the ledger, you'll probably find yourself, you're not as bad as what the ladder will say, but you could find yourself down in 14th or 15th spot.
Great way to sum it up. If you're the team who loses 3 or 4 games by kick, you could well be down in 14th or 15th and looking poor. Here's Gav of Golden Bay. Morning team, thoughts on the Tigers' first up effort, and will the D's be sliders?
Well, I've been worried about the D's all along, but it's just getting worse for me as it goes along because, obviously the situation explains itself there. But I think Richmond's next generation were pretty good. I think they're not going to be as bad. A lot of people put in the bottom 4. I can't see that. I think they're better than that. They've still got the top-end talent, but, with blokes like Dow and Green and Gibcus and Brown and Banks and Somsey and Ryan, they're still in their infancy to a degree, Shorty, and I think they've got to give them energy, and that's what they need. They need but a little bit more. A lot of their senior type players are getting a little tired and a little bit worn. We know how Dusty can be, and he's going to. He might have 2 to 3 good games in a month. He's not going to do it every week for you because that's just the nature of the beast. So they'll be nuisance value. That's how I'll put them. Again, do I think they'll make the 8? No, I don't. But under the new coach, they are physical. They're a little bit different. It's a different message from Uze to what Hardwick was giving them, and of course McWalter in the latter part of last season. So they'll be nuisance value. They're probably, if they edge towards double figures, Shorty, I think they'll be heading in the right direction.
They've still got enough quality to cause some headaches, haven't they? Guys like Bolton, Dusty, when Lynch comes back, likewise there. I thought Taranto was excellent last year from Richmond. He had a really good season. So they've got enough quality to, on their day, certainly cause a few headaches. Trying to find the bottom 4 when you talk about this season upcoming is challenging because obviously West Coast and North are the 2 that you automatically sort of go. But North will improve. No doubt about that. West Coast, they look the ones that are probably going to be there for at least this season while they get games into their younger stock. So you can maybe go those 2. But I thought Hawthorn might be on the bounce, but they've been one of the big losers of the pre-season. Unfortunately, Hawthorn, they've had key injuries to very important players in the pre-season, which may just sort of stunt their start to the season, but they'll get better. But outside of those 3 sides, I think after that, sides like Geelong and Richmond are interesting because they've still got older players that have been at the top level, but potentially they might slide. But you take them out of the equation, and I don't think there's an absolute truckload between the rest, to be honest. It's going to be one hell of a season.
Well, it's only dancing with his sister stuff, but Richmond have been able to score, and that's good. That's a really good asset to have. You've got to outscore the opposition. So that's a bit of a bonus. They've reeled together quite a few. They conceded the first 5 goals the other day, and then all of a sudden, bang, 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 they found themselves back in front. And they did that the week before as well, where they had 10 unanswered goals. Yep. Geelong should be better this year because surely they've had a month earlier start than they used to. They're used to coming off the shorter break because they've always been in the finals or up at pointy end. They weren't last year. But you're right, Shorty. They still worry me because again, Guthrie injured again. This is the problem. Hawkins late in the season injured. He's fine. He wants to keep playing. His motivation's there, but can his body keep up? Mitch Duncan, we love him, the Perth boy. But that just worries me. If Jeremy Cameron breaks down, and I'm not wishing this, Dangerfield often gets these soft tissue injuries. Look, their draw always allows them at Cardinia Park to be in the fight, but it's what's going to go on: motivation, body, mind, the whole kit and caboodle. Interesting year for the Cats, I reckon. And Melbourne, as we said, we've spoken about them. We're worried about them anyway, and I'm even getting more concerned about them now because of you've lost Brayshaw, you lost Smith. It just seems to be mounting. The pressure seems to be mounting on Melbourne. So much revolves around Petrarca and Viney and Gawn. And Gawn's getting older too, so it's a bit of a worry there.
Yeah, young Naismith took him to the cleaners the other day. He looked really good in the rucking encounters, Richmond v Melbourne. It was last Sunday, didn't he? Young Naismith. He was a fine.
Yeah, he can play. He's always been a bloke who's just lacked opportunity. Yep. But, he just hasn't been able to crack it in there. But, Gawn's a different, he's a wiry character. He's on the bulk, and that's the other thing for West Coast with Flynn. I mean, God almighty. I mean, that was his problem at GWS. He couldn't establish himself because he was always getting these injury problems, and then he had to withdraw the other day with a hammy. It's going to be all about your personnel on the park week in, week out, and you're going to have them all together because if you don't, we spoke about it. It used to be 5%, 10%. You're 5% off this year. You'll get whacked.
Just the problem with Adelaide too, and particularly losing Mark Keane. We didn't talk about this. Like, it's all good to say Powell Pepper's got to, not play on instinct, but he's KO'd this guy. Full concussion, Mark Keane. Now they're missing Nick Murray, Jordan Butts. Mark Keane was going in as a key defender, so they are short of personnel down back, and they're probably going to be short of them for a while, Brad.
Yeah, exactly right. It's just it's a horse racing parlay, isn't it? Like in running, it's going to be paramount, but like never before. And Shorty nailed it before. You pick your bottom 4. Good luck. First 2 probably pick themselves.
After that,
it's line ball. Line ball, and you can be on the wrong side of the line or you can be on the good side of the ledger.
Big style. And you know, sides like Essendon are really interesting this year. They played some big games last year. I was at the game where Port beat them last kick of the siren on the run that they were on. They've played and beaten some very good sides on the way through. Had the coach there for an extra year now. You've got Gold Coast, to a really interesting side, Brad. Dimmer Hardwick comes in. Their history is they haven't made the finals. There's a lot of expectation. King re-signed for another 2 years earlier in the week, which is a really positive sign for this group. I'm hearing a lot of very good things out of this playing group in regards to a couple of them have got new roles this year. I think Sexton's gone down back, and that's really revitalised him. He's getting a bit of the ball back there. They just, to me, seem to be a side that, again, I think there's upside, and with a really good coach at the helm, I wouldn't fall off the cliff if they played finals for the first time this season.
Oh, yeah, no, but my longer-term range was, as Marty knows, as the Gold Coast, and it would make the 8, and I still think that, and it's improving it, because what it's doing too, Shorty, is that we haven't spoke, is that they are going to training, they are learning the old moves that you, I, and Marty know about from Richmond, but it's new to them. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So they're actually not only conditioning well, but they're learning something, and it's enjoyable. And you say they're starting to be really, really, collectively suitable to one another. King signing on. It's, and look at Anderson and Rail and all these guys. Took Miller back this year. They look wits. They've got enough there. They've got the glue. Now they've just got to. We know how dangerous they are at Carrara. It's what they're going to do on the road. It's going to be the decider for them, whether they go forward or not. But I'm quite excited about them. I think Brisbane will be very, very good as well. So the northern states are looking okay. We think GWS will be, be good again. They only missed just slightly last year. And Sydney came up all right the other day, because they played GWS. We won't take much out of the result. But again, guys, young McDonald and a few of these blokes, one ship, one captain when Mills comes back. These sort of things, they look in good shape, the northern states. So that's another X factor into the competition.
Hey, Brad, we had the World Club Challenge Rugby League settled earlier on this morning. We was robbed. Penrith going down to Wigan 16-12, but a lot of the Penrith fans weren't happy with the refereeing.
Oh, well, that's a little unusual, Marty. To blame the umpires or blame the ref when you lose. But I didn't see that bit. But anyway, I thought you boys mightn't make it this morning. I thought you might have been at the WWE last night, Marty.
Effectively I was, because I don't live too far away from Optus Stadium. It was going OFF. I'm telling you, OFF. Fireworks.
Gosh.
I'm telling you, Brad. We were down there walking past the river, and they've got a couple of barges on the river. And Holly said, looks like the fireworks. And this guy come running up. He said, look, 20 minutes' time, the fireworks are going off. They'll only be for 20 seconds. We're going to do it 4 20-second lots of fireworks throughout the evening. First one goes in half an hour. Well, I thought we were in the middle of Gaza. I'll tell you. They were going off.
Wow.
It was like you've never heard anything like before. But
one thing I will say about it, geez, it's brought some punters to Perth for it. There were people from all over the place.
That's a $20 million gate there last night.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible.
It's massive. Now we all understand, and don't ever claim that it's fake, because if they slap you, you'll soon know if it's not fake. But we know it's orchestrated a little fair bit, but it's very, very popular, Shorty. They've got their own channel 24/7 on Foxtel.
Man, it's huge.
Got to give Matty Young
coming out of their backside
a bit of a rap here. The big nephew, he was telling me on Friday that he'd bought, I think he bought 5 tickets. They were $500 tickets each. He's had a bit of a run on the punt, so he said he couldn't find any mates to go with him and his lovely. So he got on another station and gave the 3 away, but it had to be a point that somebody had to need them. It wasn't just, ring up and get them. And a gentleman and his 2 sons who are really struggling for a bit of coin were able to win it, and they had a fantastic night. So well done to Matty. Nice bit of karma there from the big boy. And
he's doing well. He's doing well if he's finding a winner on the punt.
Well,
Almighty.
giving away $1,500 in tickets. He is certainly finding a winner. Not like his uncle, that is for sure. Now, let's find a winner. We need a Sunday saviour, Brad.
Oh, I'm out of luck today. I haven't been able to get into that. I apologise for that. So Ginger Jane's going to have to go around without me.
No Sunday saviour. What?
Oh, mate, it's been bedlam here. I've just tried to find a line. I was in at AW yesterday because I couldn't quite get the... That was the only thing I could keep an eye on, what was going on in the racing world. So I'm going to have a lay day today, Marty, unfortunately. Apologies for that, but I'll be bouncing back next Sunday, I assure you of that.
How's Coco, the Wonder Dog, handling this?
Hasn't been much help in the moving stage.
All right.
Happy to lay on the couch and fall asleep very often, if that makes sense.
Have you called on the boys down there at Retrovision, Group 1 boards to help you out?
Always, yeah, absolutely. Just needed a few little things, TV. It's like when you go into different. You've got these little knickknacks. You've got to have all of those. We get all those at Retrovision. So Mort's has been over in New Zealand this week, Shorty. I think him and Mick Radley and a few of the boys might have bought some horses. So we'll see what they bring back from there. The Nude Nut, I think he financed it for them. 1-800-100-100 because he can do things the banks can't. He can even finance horses, and which is even good. And he had the Magic Millions during the week too, didn't you, Marty? How did that go?
Oh, it was very, well, it wasn't as hot as it could have been, but it's still warm. But they blasted the record out of the stadium, 625,000 for the full to Bustler by playing golf.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but a lot of interest from the Eastern Staters for the first day. I think most of them went home for day two. Now, Jim of Pommy Pie, we know how good he is. He said, listen, no Brad Hardie, Sunday Saviour, go with mine. So this is it.
Jim
the Pommy Pie. Mudgee Race 1, Horse 14 Dale wins. Launceston Race 1, Horse 5 Esper Place. Moe Race 1, Horse 14 Popping Champagne win. And Wagga Race 1, Horse 7 Let Me Entertain You a place. There you go. Jim of Pommy Pie, first emergency, comes to the rescue.
Who's riding Let Me Entertain
Robbie
you?
Williams? Yeah,
He's
Williams.
riding that. I tell you what, and there's a well done, Jimmy. Thank you very much for that. I've written all of that down, and that was also he's channeling Charlie Sutton, because Charlie Sutton, Shorty, back in the day, his favourite catch cry was "shop early." So it sounds like there's a new in race 1 there, right around the country.
Race 1s. All the best, Brad. Thanks for that.
All the best, boys. Cheers.
Have a safe move. He's there, of course, for Retrovision and Loans 1, 2, 3. Let's go now to a break, and we'll be coming back.
On The Aftermath, you're listening to Marty Young and David Shortte right here on Tab Radio Racing and Sport.
Yes, we head across to Melbourne and welcome along Courtney Walsh. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, gents. Quite a lot of sport going on around the country today, and also across the Tasman in New Zealand, and very happy to be able to bring some of it to you. I can tell you that the Australians have made some significant changes leading into this last T20 outing against New Zealand at Eden Park. Cummins has rested, so too Hazelwood, and Mitch Marsh is the 12th man, so he's been rested as well effectively. But it does look like it's going to be wet. So whether we actually get through this last T20, having already secured the Chapel Hadley Trophy, remains to be seen.
All right, that's interesting. A bit of a unique outfit for the Aussies. They're 2-0 up going into this third game. Walshy, they've been entertaining encounters. The first of the three was spectacular with Tim David. I think it's probably the ultimate performance to come out late in a game like that, cold, go straight out to the middle and just peel off a strike rate of 300. It was a 31 off 10 balls, I think it was. Come up clutch. If we were looking for our closer for the T20 World Cup later in the year, there's no better performance than that, you would have thought, to suggest he'll be our man.
No, I think that almost... look, I would have been surprised if he wasn't in the squad, but I think that absolutely secures his berth in terms of that position. It was a really polished performance, given the circumstances. But also, I thought, you obviously have to strike it big at that time. But I thought he did it with distinction in terms of being able to get Australia within reach, so that come that last ball we had a chance. And to do what he did, it was a very, very good four, despite the best efforts of the Kiwi fieldsman to try and rein it in. The crowd was going bonkers. It was just a spectacular performance on Wednesday night. And then Friday night was a very curious affair for mine. I thought, Australia able to get off to an absolute flyer with Travis Head, again, probably cementing his spot at the top of the order alongside David Warner, who's missing this match with an adductor issue. You think that that's the opening combination just about for sure. To then go through that, basically to go from... 1 for 85 off about 8 overs to then all out for 174. I thought we were in massive trouble, but the bowlers just a superb performance from everyone, basically. From Zampa obviously taking 4 wickets, but I thought Hazelwood at the top of the first 3 overs where he was just so miserly, and Cummins was good, and Marsh and Ellis sort of pitched in and had their own sort of little moments in that bowling performance. So a really polished performance in the second one after they were in some trouble, following the heroics from Tim David on day one of the T20 series.
So that'll lead us into the test match between New Zealand and Australia. Are we looking at any changes for the Australian team there?
No, look, I would be very surprised if there's any changes to what we've seen. It's interesting, Labuschagne, there's an interview with Manish Labuschagne in some of the News Corp tabloids around the country today, talking about his dip in form from 60 down to 50 in terms of what he's averaging. We saw him having big troubles against Pakistan, but then particularly against the West Indies, getting himself out. So he's delved into that and wondering whether he was focusing too much on not getting out LBW and hence getting out, nicking off. A bit of pressure under him. I thought there was some cracks in the Australian team at different stages through the summer. Yes, they won the first 4 tests, but a bit of luck, I think, against Pakistan, and then obviously Joseph ran a muck at the Gabba. So a couple of question marks on that team, and it's interesting. It's the last 2 tests we play until we play India, at the start of December. So a little bit going on there for Australia. How we look, I think clearly the Smith at the top of the order and Green at 4. There's still some question marks there as well. So I think there's a bit to play out in these next 2 tests in New Zealand. Yeah,
looking forward to them. Should be generally very good contests when we head across to New Zealand. The other big game of note today, Walshy, WA looking to make it 3 straight Marsh Cups in the one-day format, and that game's underway there. In Sydney, New South Wales are batting. WA won the toss and chose to field after 8.1 overs. New South Wales 1 for 30. Dan Hughes not out on 22 off 35 balls. The early wicket to go was Jack Edwards. Court Hobson bowled AJ Tye. And getting towards the end of that 9th over now, New South Wales 1 for 32. Should be a good game. Still to bat for New South Wales. Moses Enriques, Ollie Davies, Matty Gilks, Chris Green, Ben Dwarshuis. Then we're down to Salzman, Bird and Tanvir Sangha. For WA, a good quality side. So their batting lineup will look like this. Josh Philippi and Darcy Short to open up. Cam Bancroft at 3. The skipper, Sammy Whiteman at 4. Hilton Cartwright 5. Cooper Connolly 6. Nick Hobson at 7. Ashton Agar at 8. Joel Paris at 9. AJ Tye 10 and Jason Behrendorff batting 11. That bowling lineup pretty strong for the West Aussies. Behrendorff, Paris, Tye, Agar, and of course their batting as well looks fairly solid. Do you think they can make it 3 in a line here, Walshy?
Well, it's an interesting one. There's no Aaron Hardie, obviously, in that match. You had the calf issues, which I suppose prevented him from going to New Zealand, and clearly that hasn't come up for the Marsh Cup today. Paris, I think it's his first Marsh Cup match this season. I'm not so sure he's actually bowled in a Marsh Cup match this season, and may have only played 6 or so in the last couple of years. But it's interesting. New South Wales won 4 in a row, and I think knocked off WA twice in that little winning streak. So, while WA has a sustained form and going for that hat-trick, which I think would match the deed of the New South Welshmen going back, a while ago in the Marsh Cup. 3 in a row would be a fantastic effort and continue what's been a phenomenal decade, I suppose, in terms of state wins for WA. The sharper form points to New South Wales at home being the team to beat. Big job, I think, on Behrendorff to try and restrict them today.
Indeed, big great game that's underway there. You can keep your eyes peeled on that, as well as the international between Australia and New Zealand. Walshy, you cover an awful lot of other sports as well. The other big sport that's around the corner and can't wait for the finals that kick off this week, the NBL. It's been a hell of a season. Bryce Cotton, the 4th MVP for him, announced last week. And these finals are going to be spectacular. I was mentioning with Marty off air the 2 games kicking off on Wednesday night, and I think you can make a case for the outsiders in both of these initial series as well. We see on Wednesday the Jack Jumpers 147 taking on the Illawarra Hawks 270. That line at 5 points, and also Wednesday at 4:30 Sydney Kings, who are just going $1.58, New Zealand 235. The line 3.5.
Yeah, so it's interesting, as you say, you touch on the Sydney Kings just going. At that price, you would, given the case you can make for the outsiders, you think there's certainly a prospect. There's a couple of factors with the Jack Jumpers that, clearly seeking their first title, and I look at it also from an AFL landscape and go how successful they've been in terms of home crowds, etc. But they do want to get over the line at some stage, don't they, Shorty?
Indeed.
Given their consistency, but not quite sort of able to break through for various reasons in the last couple of seasons, try and pull off a title would be a big moment for Tasmanian sport.
They'll know they're in a contest against Illawarra. Look, we've got to get moving because Shane Oxley's coming up to talk about that win in the Oakley Plate yesterday of Q-Man. Thanks for joining us this morning. All the best, Courtney.
Absolutely. Good to be with you.
Well, there he is. Courtney Walsh joining us there from North Fitzroy having a coffee. Take a break. Shane Oxley next. Well, there it is. What a finish to the Oakley Plate yesterday. Group 1 glory to South Australia. Shane Oxlade joins us. He's on his way back home with a big cup and a Group 1 victory with Q-Man. Hi, Shane. Welcome to the West.
How are you, boys?
Going beautifully, thank you, Shane. How were the celebrations overnight? Big result from Q-Man there yesterday. Harry Coffey aboard. It was a really special moment for yourself and the team. What did you do last night to celebrate?
I finished up at the casino with most of the boys, and it was a late night. I'm not a drinker, but it was still a late night, long night. There wasn't a lot of sleep, and it was early morning this morning to get up and get the boys on the truck back home. So a bit tired, but well worth it.
Geez, those boys did you proud, didn't they? Q-Man, a magnificent win, and Sharippa was also massive in defeat. But let's concentrate on the winner. What a win. What a tough win, because this race, 102.63, there was no place to hide out there yesterday.
No, they always run along in that race, and it was no exception yesterday. And Harry gave him a beautiful ride, got tucked in behind. I said, just see if he can get a sit, mate, and it'll be hard to beat us. He's in really good form, and his work since he's been home and back again was really good, and he was tough. Once he got to the other horse, I didn't think he could kick back and beat him, but did get close on the line.
Yeah, it was very, very tight. And credit to both horses. They both really just rolled up the sleeves and got down to business the last little bit. Hypothetical just kept on kicking. But to the credit of Q-Man, just kept on finding. And Harry Coffey really did get the best out of Q-Man over the last 50 metres in particular when the race really was up for grabs.
Yeah, like both boys give both their horses a good ride. Hypothetical, obviously a good leader, and Harry give out my bloke a good ride. They're both hard at it late, and luckily on the line we got the bob. I actually thought probably 100 out we was probably going to win by a neck and be comfortable, but it was very close on the line, and Harry got everything he could out of him, and it was a great result.
Love the interview post-race with your fellow South Australian Bruce McAvaney when you spoke about the owner and previous trainer, Boof Smith, how he'd struggled with this horse a little bit. And, gee, you go back through his record, 29 starts, 9 wins, 5 seconds and 2/3. He's just under $1 million now, but he's always been a good horse, even when Boof had him.
Yeah, he was. He's just one of them horses that's just a tough horse. He tried you out a bit early in the piece, just with his manners at the gates mostly on race day. Other than that, he was fine. He's a really good ride, but he's a bit rough at home. He's just a bit of a bull and knock you around and whatever. And he sort of done Boof up a couple of times. So he finished up at home, but his record's just been really good in sprint races back in Adelaide. And to go over and win the list at Adams and then go back yesterday and being able to pull off the Group 1, he's obviously gone to the next level. And he's just been really good, really strong, and he couldn't be more happy.
Shane, it's incredible how patient you can be when the actual animal's got a massive motor.
Oh, you got to wait. The other horses are the same. You got to wait. And it's easy to keep sending them around, but we sort of not a big stable, and you want your horses, and you buy them, and you want to have them, and you want to have them for more than a season, and so you look after them and try and get the best out of them, and both of them have got a good future going. It gets a bit tougher now, of course. BQ-Man, Group 1 winner, races get harder to find, and the other horse has probably got a little bit more up his sleeve because he hasn't won that yet, but it's a good problem to have.
Before we talk about Sharippa, what's immediate plans now for Q-Man?
No, look, I don't know, to be honest. It was probably his grand final yesterday before we come. We had a quick talk to Buff last night, and I doubt that he'll come back to the new market. I think he'll probably have a freshen up and get ready for the carnival at home in May, Goodwood at home then. So we'll have a look at that and go from there. But just get them both home, make sure they pull up fine. They look really good this morning. They had up pretty good last night. Sharippa left a bit more than normal, but they look really good and bright this morning, so I'll get them home and see what happens. Similar plan for Sharippa. You mentioned there might be a little more up for grabs, just given that the Group 1's still up the sleeve of Sharippa, but how do you think the rest of the next little bit will look for this horse? Craig Newitt's got a great association with this animal, and this horse has got plenty of upside as well, only being a 4-year-old. Yeah, he has, and Craig was pretty disappointed yesterday, come back and just said, should have won. Sorry, mate. He didn't step great, which can be a habit, and then got a couple of bumps, and, obviously his last 600 was the best 600 of the race, and got beat 2.2, and was really good, really strong, and I guess you need luck in racing. Good luck, not bad luck. We had a bit of both yesterday, but I don't know. Originally I was coming back, he just said, bring me back to the new market, mate. I'll win the new market on him, but I'll get him home. He's normally a horse that just cleans up, and he didn't leave a lot last night, but he left a little bit. He's had 6 runs, and it's probably not the runs, it's the travel, and he's been over and back 4 times now. So if I'm happy with him, I'll be back in a fortnight. If I'm not, then he'll just go away and have a holiday and get ready for the Goodwood at home as well. So,
okay.
You got the new market there. It's tempting, but I've looked after him this long, so, you just do the right thing by the horse in the end.
Yeah, he is a track and distance winner of the Standish. You have a look of what you've been able to achieve with these two. You won the listed Christmas Stakes, the Group 3 Standish, the listed WJ Adams, and now the Group 1 Oakley Plate. It hasn't been a bad couple of months.
No, it's been pretty good. They're the only city winners in Melbourne, so I can't complain. I've only played Sprintway we've missed is the Lightning last week. We didn't have anything in it, so it's been a pretty good 6 or 8 weeks that going to be hard to top in the next little bit, I would think. That
would be. And remember the footage of Shane when Sharippa won the Standish and you were punching it home all the way up that Flemington Straight. How were you yesterday?
I try to be a bit more reserved. Yes, there's too many cameras around. You end up looking like an idiot, I try to be a bit more reserved, and that's what I think Bruce or one of them said. We did have a camera, and I thank Christ for that. But, no, I did try to tone it down a bit yesterday.
Shane, I think there'll be plenty more cameras heading forward. Tell us a little bit about the rest of your team across there in South Australia, and are there any more that potentially have got the upside to get to the level of Cumin and Sharippa over the next 12 months or so?
I don't know whether I've got any Group 1 horses in the yard. Nice to think there are, but there is a couple of nice horses there, Nasho and Dodd. I really like both of them. Dodd didn't have any luck at all last prep, and they're both back in work, and Nasho won his maiden and was placed in 2 or 3 3-year-old races in town. They're both really nice horses going forward. So I've got a little bit to work with. Not a big team, sort of 12 or 14 most time pulls us up, and a lot of them are 2 and 3-year-olds or 2-year-olds normally in yearlings, or sort of bought a few yearlings again a week ago. And so there's never a big pool of horses as far as numbers go in racing, but there are a couple of nice horses going forward that'll certainly win races.
Shane, you listed down the train there at Woodchester. Tell us a little bit about that.
Woodchester's about 10 k's out of Strathalbyn. Only got 7 acres there. I generally go to the track each day. Mondays might be a day I stay home, but I normally go into the track each day and work there and just come back home. But it's just 7 acres, nice big open yards outside. They spend all their time outside and nice and quiet. So it's just a a little town, I guess, with probably 40 houses there, if that. So it's just a nice, quiet little place to be, just off the road.
Beautiful. You know your neighbours pretty well then?
Yeah, no, actually, I've got a neighbour alongside me. I think I've been out there now for 12 years, and if he walked up and said g'day to me today, I wouldn't know him. I've never seen him. I don't see him, and he don't see me, and it's all pretty good, nice and quiet.
Works out nicely for both parties. And you mentioned yesterday in the post-race with Bruce just how tight-knit family you had working with your horses there as well, and there's something to be said for that. I'm sure there would have been enormous pride from sort of the handful of people that are working day in, day out with the team.
Yeah, obviously there is. You know, there's only me and Cassie really at home, and Vincey Butler, Vincey Dunlop, ex-jump jockey, he does yards and waters for me, and comes out each day, and so there's just sort of us at home. I still do all my own shoeing and that sort of stuff, so we do that, and then you got Lauren and Kira and Justin Potter that ride work for me at the track, and it's just the sort of half a dozen of us that do it, and it's pretty special, pretty special for everyone when you get involved like that, and like Vincey rang me last night, and we had a good yak, and he had a bit of a cry, and one thing and another, so it's sort of a really good show.
Shane, wonderful to come on the Aftermath this morning. Enjoy the afterglow of victory of a Group 1 there yesterday in the Oakley Plate. Thanks, mate.
No, thanks very much, boys.